Hey guys, my name is Tristan, and if you are new here, please like, subscribe, share, and comment, and hit that bell for all the latest content. So today we're going to talk about the S mode on your gear shifter for your 22 Tundra, and that is equivalent to driving a manual transmission. Now, I've been driving a manual transmission for probably the last 16 years. And let me tell you guys something. If you've never driven a manual transmission before, it is the most engaging, fun driving experience that you can have with a vehicle. You actually feel like you are in complete control. And well, today we're going to do an overview of that S mode to determine and see, well, does it give you that same driving experience as if you were driving a manual transmission? Let's get to it. So we are on page 200 of the owner's manual for driving procedures, and I want to utilize the manuals to sort of discuss the details in regards to the S mode on your gear shifter. Now, they don't really specify what the S stands for. Is it standard shifting? Is it sport mode? Is it sequential? Not really sure, but if you look here in bullet point number 2, I'm going to read this here to you. It says selecting shift ranges using S mode restricts the upper limit of the possible gear ranges, controls engine braking force, and prevents unnecessary shifting. Now, that to me sounds like just a very controlled experience there. So it doesn't really, I guess, give you sort of that freedom per se in regards to when you would be driving a standard vehicle with a clutch. And again, we're going to try to see exactly how this feels when we take the truck out for a ride in the S mode. But just reading that off the bat, not really exciting to read that the majority of the shifting is to be controlled by the computer. So now we're on page 201 of the driving procedures, and if you look at that second point to the left titled AI shift, gonna read that there too, y'all. It says the AI shift automatically selects a suitable gear according to driver operation and driving conditions. AI shift automatically operates when the shift lever is in D or S. Again, just another potentially discouraging guideline there from the manual, considering the fact that the whole point of having a manual transmission or a manual sport mode, I guess, is to be able to be engaged, be in control, be one with the vehicle. And unfortunately, what that sounds like is that the computer, the AI, will be the one doing a lot of the shifting for you. So therefore, it's pretty much just user error friendly. So we're now on page 202, the driving procedures. I'm going to talk about changing shift ranges in S mode. So select the shift range is obviously from 1 to 10 being a 10-speed automatic. But what it states here is that the initial shift range in S mode is set automatically to 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 according to vehicle speed. So again, when you're driving a manual transmission, you would typically start in first gear. But kind of odd considering the fact that they're saying that by default, it will actually be in gear 4 already. So that's kind of odd. Also states here that, however, the initial shift range may be set to 4 if AI shift has operated while the shift lever was in the D position. Okay. And then so in S mode, obviously you can choose from 10 levels of accelerating force. It says the lower shift range will provide greater accelerating force, obviously being in a lower gear. To prevent the engine from over-revving, upshifting may automatically occur. To protect the automatic transmission, a function is adopted that automatically selects a higher shift. So that's kind of contradictory considering the fact that the whole point of being in S mode is to have the experience of being able to select your own gear as if equivalent to you driving a manual transmission. But those last 2 points clearly said automatically occur, automatically selects. So that's kind of discouraging considering the fact that, well, it kind of defeats the purpose of having that S mode all in all. I mean, what's the point if the computer, the truck's in a shift for you? So again, this is, we're going through this together before I actually take it out for a drive. But I'm already discouraged. And it sounds like it's going to be a pretty boring experience. But I will give you my honest and transparent feedback regarding the driving experience of this to see if it's even worth it. We're looking at the gear shifter. Now, before we go into the S mode, I do want to highlight the fact that I absolutely love the TRD shift knob. Just the overall look, the texture, just a very masculine, tough feel to it. And of course, loving that TRD stamp there. So now I'm going to put the gear selector here into drive mode, and of course on the bottom right corner you will see what gear you're in. But let me try to capture both of this here. So watch this. I'm going to go ahead and go into S mode and pay attention to that corner right there, okay? So we're going to go into the S mode, and what you see is that it already comes into S4, which is kind of odd considering the fact that when you're driving a manual transmission, we all know we start in first gear. But just like the manual said, well, it's going to go into S4. Now, I'm going to try to downshift here. Let's see if we can go to S1 here. Downshifting to S3, S2, and of course, when you're shifting, just downshift, upshift. So here's the downshift, S1, okay? Now, we'll go up to S2, S3, S4, S5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Of course, being a 10-speed automatic compared to the previous Tundras, which were 6-speed automatic transmissions. So, but again, once you go into D and go back into S, again, I think just fairly odd that you start right off the bat in fourth gear. So very weird there, but we're going to see how this thing drives. We're going to come to a stop here. I'm going to shift over to the S mode. And let's go right here. And then it's already in S4. So I'm starting out from a dead stop at S4, which is kind of odd. And I'm going to shift to S5. So typically when you're driving a manual transmission, there's really two ways that I guess you can sense when you need to drive. Number one, on average, most people would shift around 2,000 to 2,500 RPMs, or you can get a feel for the vehicle in regards to when you kind of hit that or pass that peak power curve when you need to shift into, a higher gear. But I'm going to go ahead and go to a dead stop again. Again, I am in S mode right now. And let's see what it does on its own. I'm not going to downshift myself. And it literally stayed in S5. So I'm going from a dead stop now to S5. Super weird. I'm going to go ahead and make a U-turn here, a turn, because I kind of want to see what the truck feels like whenever you are, I guess, from a dead stop on S1. So we are in S1, and we're going to start from a dead stop to S1 now. So let's see how this feels. Okay, so a couple things. From S1, you can definitely take the RPMs all the way up to red line, which is right around 6,000 RPMs. The odd thing is that there's almost this little lag in regards to the shifting in the gears. Let's try that again. So I'm complete dead stop S1, and we're going to get on it here a little bit. You hear that? So S2, S3. Okay. I hate it. So here's the thing. When you are starting in the lower gear from S1, S2, S3, when you shift, the actual RPMs jump another 5 or I guess maybe 500 RPMs, which is fairly odd, and it's kind of dangerous considering the fact that, when you're redlining, you want to be able to shift right on point. And this adds an additional 500 RPMs, give or take, for whatever reason. Let's try this again. So watch this. Listen. And then it shifts. And then it shifts. Super weird. All right, guys. So another thing I noticed as well is that whenever you're downshifting, again, the AI really kind of takes over. So just right there when we hit that stop sign, I was at S5 and I was trying to downshift, and it went immediately to S3. And now I'm at S3, S4, so it skips gears, and I guess that's the rev matching the AI. Again, it really just pre-selects what gear you should be in based upon your speed and RPM. So I think overall the driving experience, what am I taking away from this? The S mode itself, in my opinion, is not worth it. I mean, to be quite honest with you, it's just a lot of work for nothing, because you don't get that thrill, that driving experience that you would typically get, again, with a manual transmission. And I know it's an automatic, will never come close to it. But, there are certain situations where you do have vehicles that are either paddle shift or have some sort of manual shifting mode. And it is somewhat of a good driving experience. This one is absolutely horrible. And it just skips all over the place. The the delay and the upshift when you're starting from a lower gear is horrible, and I think that's a little dangerous considering the fact that I can imagine if I was using this, let's say, you know, on a drag race or whatever the case might be, and I wanted to shift right at red line, well, it's going to add an additional 500 RPM. So, I mean, you're never really supposed to go past beyond red line and blow your motor and whatnot. So, I think overall, I don't like it. Not a fan of it. Again, this is probably the last time I'm going to use this S mode. So, yeah, horrible. Thumbs down. So as we conclude this video, I think I figured out what the S stands for. Sucks? Slacking? Stupid? I don't know, man. Look, the bottom line is that there is actually nothing that would ever come close to mimicking the driving experience that you will have when you're driving a manual transmission. The overall feel of the S mode is very controlled, very AI, very artificial, and it just doesn't come close to it whatsoever. You know, again, to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to be using that S mode from here on out. It's just completely pointless in my opinion. But again, overall, guys, some upcoming videos here and updates. I actually had to replace the entire dash cam, and I had a failure on that, so that's going to be one of my next videos. Also, trying to coordinate again with Edgar to bring him back in and do a lot of comparison videos with his 2020 TRD Pro Tundra, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So, until then, you guys have a good one.